So, welcome, friends, to another Crystal Clarity author interview. And on behalf of Ananda Sangha Worldwide, it's my joy and pleasure to introduce Joseph Puru Selby, who is the co author of this wonderful book, The Yugas Keys to Understanding Our Hidden Past, Emerging Energy Age, and Enlightened Future. Welcome, Puru. Great to see you again.
Oh, glad to be talking with you again.
So, Puru, for some of our viewers that might not be familiar, could you just give us a little backdrop again on what the yugas are, and just give us some context and kind of the blessings of this new understanding, if you will, of how we're in this evolutionary cycle?
So the yugas as a concept has been around literally for thousands of years. As you might guess from the name, if you're not already familiar with them, they come to us from India. And yugas most easily translates into English as ages. So it's a cycle of the ages that we're really referring to when we talk about the yugas. And this cycle, according to Paramahansa Yogananda's teacher, Sri Yukteswar, lasts for 24,000 years, or approximately 24,000 years, as he says. And that half of that cycle, the consciousness of mankind is declining. So if we look back to the last high point, which would have been 11,500 BC, mankind's consciousness would have been at its peak. And then from there, for 12,000 years, it declined. And as it declined, it went through specific ages. And there are 4 ages in the yogic cycle as it comes to us from India. Interestingly enough, there are 4 ages in the cycle that comes to us from Greece, the golden, silver, bronze, and iron ages. And this is true of other cycles that you can read about in ancient traditions. So for the yugas, they refer to them as Satya Yuga, which is the highest, Treta Yuga, second, then Dwapara Yuga, the third down the line, and finally Kali Yuga, the lowest age. And then once they hit that bottom of the cycle, they go back up, because it is indeed a circle. And so 500 AD was the nadir, was the low point most recently. And that means that it's about 1,700 years ago. Is that right? Is my math right? Not quite. So, sorry, blanking on the math. But everybody can do the math. 500 years to the present means that we've gone through the lowest age of Kali Yuga again, and we're now into the second age of Dwapara, and we will, in another couple thousand years, go into Treta Yuga, and then in 3,600 years after that, we'll go into Satya Yuga again, the highest age. So that's the basic picture.
Right.
Each age has characteristics. So Satya Yuga, the highest age, has the characteristic of mankind as a whole understanding the presence of God. Treta Yuga is also a very high age, but the basic understanding of Treta is more mental. And then the understanding of Dwapara Yuga, which is what we're in, is more about energy, both outward energy and inner energy. And then finally, Kali Yuga's basic understanding is just about matter, the world around us and what the senses can tell us. So we find ourselves in the ascending mode and in Dwapara Yuga, which can be referred to as the energy age as well. And that is a very interesting time. And anybody who is alive today would probably say this is a very interesting time, whether they knew about the Yugas or not.
Right.
We're in a time of extremely rapid change. And this is what was predicted by Sri Yukteswar, who is where we get most of our ideas for the Yugas from, as I know them and as I present them with my co-author David Steinmetz in the book The Yugas. So it's all based on his explanation of the Yugas, both the length and the qualities of the different ages. And he said that Dwapara Yuga would be a time of rapid expansion of knowledge in all departments. And that is overwhelmingly clear. He also said that we would overcome the limitations of space, which is somewhat fascinating. You can think of the limitations of space as being like space travel, but you can also think about the limitations of space in terms of modern communications. You know, the limitation of space in 1,000 years ago was that if you had a message you wanted to get to someone and you were in India and you wanted to get the message to Europe, one, it may or may not get there. And two, it could take months. It might take 6 months. Now it takes 6 microseconds. So we have already overcome a lot of the limitations of space just through modern communications. And we may see more in things like space travel. Dwapara Yuga is also a time when mankind as a whole is going to understand the fact that matter is really energy, condensed energy, or I like to say matter is energy masquerading as matter, that it really is an illusion. And physics certainly backs that up today by telling us that the atom is 99.99999% empty space.
Right.
So there's really nothing there, virtually nothing there. But it is energy that has organized itself to give the appearance of being there. So what I like to say is it's true that matter is an illusion, but it doesn't mean that matter doesn't exist. It just means it's not what it seems to be. That matter is a seeming reality that it truly isn't. So this perspective on energy has led to many, many things in our modern era, including nuclear energy, solar power, the microchip, advanced communications. I mean, it has really been a huge transformation of society within the last 200 to 300 years because of all these new discoveries within the realm of energy as opposed to matter. In Kali Yuga, they had their discoveries, but they were really about, how many men it takes to drag a large rock and what's the best way to drag a large rock. And I'm sure they had ways to do it that were more efficient, right? Men are, and by men, I mean men and women, are intelligent. And they would no doubt have figured out things. They figured out windmills. They figured out ways to move matter, but they never really had this deeper understanding that matter was energy. And from that understanding came this huge transformation. Simultaneously, we as people living in this age have also been transformed. And this is perhaps more interesting and far more significant to us than the kind of outer effects of Dwapara Yuga. Because in this age, we're born with a innate ability to feel life force.
Mm.
And you've probably done this, and everybody who's listening to this has probably done this, but I'll show you this example. If you rub your hands together and then slowly kind of pull your hands apart and draw them back together, you will often be able, if not always, be able to feel a sense of energy between your palms. It's as
Yeah.
if there's
Yeah.
something there
Mm-hmm.
that's more than just empty air. I can't prove it, but I think if you had a Kali Yuga person do that, they would feel nothing.
Hmm.
That they did not have nervous systems refined enough to perceive subtle energy. But we do. We can feel life force. Now, not everybody's interested in life force, but those of us who are on the kind of spiritual exploration end of the spectrum of humanity, which is a growing end of the spectrum, really find most of the activities that we're trying to develop and learn from have to do with subtle energy,
Mm.
have to do with perceiving in even more breadth and depth subtle energy within us and around us. So when we meditate, we feel subtle energy. We might feel it in the heart, we might feel it surrounding us, we might feel it in the spine. But what we're able to do by more deliberately trying to perceive subtle energy is take advantage of the fact that innately we can.
Mm.
And much of alternative healing is really about energy medicine, both our ability to feel it and have people help us move it, and to take advantage of the fact that we can move it. That's why the yoga postures are effective. They move subtle energy through the body.
Mm-hmm.
They get rid of blockages to the flow of subtle energy,
Mm-hmm.
because really a healthy person is someone who's got subtle energy just flowing through them without obstruction. That's really what health is. Health isn't an absence of specific problems. Health is the presence of a dynamic feeling of life force pumping through your body, right? And so more and more people are understanding these things. Then there's also like our day-to-day life. Meditation takes us within, gets us in touch with subtle energy, subtle healing, yoga postures, help us feel that subtle energy. But I think the other thing that's happening that's kind of fascinating is that people are learning to take that subtle energy and put it into sort of productive work. And the ways in which that happen include creativity, concentration,
Mm-hmm.
willpower.
Yeah.
These are also, in a way, maybe not as innate as just simply our ability to perceive subtle energy, but they are the natural expressions of subtle energy. And there are others, but those in particular are really, really core to that. And so I think what you see is people's lives are changing in the way they actually kind of use themselves in their lives. You know, what they put to work to accomplish what they want in their lives is now becoming more subtle, along with this more subtle age.
Right. I remember you mentioning that, Prue, I think in a talk maybe a couple years ago about concentration, willpower, and creativity being tools that we can use to focus, harness the life force, receive it, create positive things in this world. I wonder if you could talk a little bit. It reminded me when you said, well, willpower. Yogananda said those exercises, the energization, it tense with will, but then relax and feel. So you were talking about
Right.
that ability that we can actually feel the life force within us. So is that why people are more have this more refined capacity to feel that life force, but then they need an ability to be able to concentrate and create things? So could you talk a little bit about maybe your process and how that works for you?
Well, I think we're in a society now where certainly half, if not more, of the population of the world uh, earns their livelihood primarily using their mind. There are still millions upon millions, if not billions, of people who earn their livelihood by use of their physical body. And they may also simultaneously use their mind for other things. But it's remarkable the degree to which we've become a non-agrarian world,
Hmm.
a non-agricultural world. And in many ways, we've all become uh, parts of a sort of a more subtle money-making machine that includes, like high tech, but it also includes, people writing books, recording podcasts like this one. In other words, the product of so many people's uh, life force these days isn't physical. So what we see is that people are learning to be more successful in using their mind and in using their will and in using their concentration to be creative or to be productive. And I think a lot of people want to know how to do it better. One of the things that we see, and I'm saying particularly we, the two of us, have seen as meditation teachers, is a lot of people come to meditation because they want to calm this crazy mind and
Mm-hmm.
calm these crazy feelings that they have that are keeping them restless and stressed. Because we're in a world with so much energy, it's easy to get caught up in it.
Right.
It's easy to be at work and have your fifth cup of coffee and go to your fourth meeting and have four unfinished emails
Right.
and 9 texts on your phone. This is sort of normal. But the good news is that all those things are a new frontier for us. The bad news is most people, not most people, I shouldn't say that, many people are, they don't do well with that kind of pure energy lifestyle, if you will. And they get restless and they get upset and they get tense and get stressed and get unhealthy as a result of it. So a lot of people are drawn to meditation because it calms them down.
Yeah.
And that's a good place to start. But the next thing that meditation does is it teaches you to concentrate. And because so many of us in this day and age are using our minds to, do our whatever it is, our life work, our purpose, our money making, the more concentrated we can make our minds, the more productive we can be. And yet you've got all this simultaneously in our Dwapara Yuga, you have distractions everywhere, right?
Right.
It's pulling you away from being concentrated.
Mm-hmm.
What's pulling you away is the energy of the age, which is a product of this higher energy time, but we're often have a difficult time harnessing it.
Focus.
So
Yeah.
learning to focus, learning to bring your mind and let it stay present with one idea at a time. You don't want your mind to go blank. For one reason, I don't actually know if it's possible. I've never had a completely blank mind. There's always something filling it, but it may not be the rush of my thoughts. It may be the feeling of God's presence. It may be the inspiration of one particular thought, but it's not blank. But getting to that point where you're present and concentrated
Mm.
can just transform how effective you can be, not only in earning your livelihood, but taking care of yourself, taking care of others, giving, loving, serving. Everything that you want to do is better when you're concentrated.
Now, let
Uh,
me. Can I
Go
ask
ahead.
that I know you, of course, like to write, not just this book, but you've written other books. One that's just come out, and we're doing this podcast, this interview in the afternoon because I believe you enjoy writing in the morning.
Yes,
Now,
yes.
why is that? I mean, I have a suspicion as to why it is you like to write in the morning, but maybe you could talk a little bit about that related to concentration and that.
Well, I mean, you're almost answering it for me. It is quite definitely and quite simply that after I meditate in the morning, I am the most concentrated I'm likely to be for the rest of the day. And so if I can just flow into writing without having self-distracted with a lot of other things,
Right.
right? That it's easy to do to ourselves. If I can just flow into writing, I can be extremely productive. I also bring with me a lot of inspiration from meditation.
Mm.
One of the practices that I think can help anyone, whatever they're doing, is that at the end of your meditation, assuming you have time, to deliberately think about what is the most important thing that I need to do today.
Mm. Mm.
And for me, with the book, it's I need to write this next paragraph, or I need to bring into focus this next idea. I need to have an idea that um, moves the narrative of the book forward. And so I will deliberately start thinking about that.
Mm.
And I find invariably that just by being present and just thinking about it, sometimes as a writer, I'm already writing it. I'm thinking, okay, I could start the sentence this way. And then it's like priming the pump. And then the sentence kind of finishes itself. The idea comes. And it's always better than anything I tend to come up with outside of meditation. It has a certain inspirational power to it. And then I go into my creative writing process with the inspiration there, but now the goal is to make that idea that came to me in meditation, and I genuinely feel came to me from spirit.
Mm.
It's the job is to turn it into sentences that will convey that inspiration and convey that idea. And I love to write this way because I can almost always get enough inspiration in meditation to write for 2, 3, 4 hours.
Wow.
And I'm often amused in a way that when that inspiration runs out, it's like I'm done. Even if I wanted to keep going, there's nothing there. I can tell
Right.
that whatever I would do next would just not be worth it because I'd be using more ego and mind to try to come up with it. So concentration helps me execute, if you will, the inspiration that I get in meditation. And anyone can do this. Anyone can do this. Just take time after you've meditated for a while and just, I try to tune into, what is the thing I don't know what I'm going to do. What is the thing that I don't already know how to move forward on? So if you're a programmer, it could be like some knot point in the programming, or it could be a bigger picture. Like, how does this coding that I'm doing now going to fit in with the bigger picture? Working with people again and again, I'll think, oh, I got this email from Bob or Jill. And at the time, I really didn't know what I was going to say.
Mm-hmm.
And if I just think about it, it's like, okay. This is the way I can have a nice interchange, even if it's a challenging subject. I can come up with a solution or an idea or a suggestion that I think they might like. But even if they don't like it, it gets the pump primed. And so I just find in so many ways that everything I want to do always can be done better if I've had time in meditation to think about it before I go do it. Now, it's not possible, at least not in my busy life, to have thought about everything that comes up. You just have to go with things. You can't. So I can't say to you, Narayan, that was an interesting question. Hold up, let's pick it up tomorrow and I'll answer it. We don't have that kind of time and possibility in our lives for the most part. But there's some things that, and usually it's the most important things that you can take a little extra time with. And then that's when creativity is born, in my experience. It's a pleasure to execute those things, to do those things, even if they morph, even as they're happening, right? And the starting point of feeling creative allows me to keep that creativity going even once I'm in the flow of it. And I think that's true working with people. It's true of any kind of work, and even true of more manual work. If you're just in a creative flow with woodworking or gardening or metalworking or anything, it'll feel better if you applied that kind of creative thinking to it, and then can go with that creative flow. I think it can be transformative for people.
Yeah. Well, this is really fascinating, Prue. It sounds like that receiving that super conscious inspiration in meditation, but then almost like a baby, if you will, you're consciously holding that and trying to, focalize it and then ground it into reality before. I find that to be very helpful, practical advice, because we're so often first thing in the morning, people might be waking up and checking their phones, before you
Yeah.
kind of get drawn into the gazillion distractions that to take that focus, that inspiration and focus it. And then it sounds like it just naturally kind of takes on a life of its own for you.
Yeah. And I think you can, the more concentrated you become, the more of that intensity of experience coming at you can be dealt with very creatively and well. But I think you have to kind of train up to it, kind of like
Yeah.
a high level tennis player got there by hours and hours and hours of concentrating playing tennis and dealing with stronger and stronger opponents. If you were to put most people, I might even say everyone, in a on one side of a tennis court against a top flight player, they'd just be blown off the court, you know, and they might or might not get a single ball back uh, to the guy playing or the gal playing them. So sometimes our modern society feels like we are playing the top player, right?
Right.
It is coming at us like a fire hose, and it's too much. But we have to deal with it. That's a tough place to be, and it's a place that a lot of people are. But if you can just kind of get a grip on it and get that meditation in, get that focus in, you can then begin to respond to that barrage more calmly.
Mm-hmm.
And you get better and better at doing it until you can be. I don't necessarily recommend that everybody be like this, but really, really top level business people are often super calm. You would think, given the demands on their time and the barrage of information and everything they're juggling, that they would be complete wrecks. But the fact is that by having gotten to the point where they were, meant that they had to learn to concentrate.
Yeah.
They had to learn to be calm, and they had to be centered. I'm forgetting the guy's name right now. He started all the Virgin
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
corporations.
Yeah, with an R.
Yeah, Richard Branson.
Thank you.
But a great quote from him is that he said, I love everything I do. There's never a moment where I go, oh God, I got to do this.
Yeah.
He loves everything he's got to do. And yet, if there's anybody who's juggling a million balls, it's somebody like Richard Branson, right? So it is possible to be totally centered and have that much coming at you. I don't recommend it. I think it's hard, and I think there are other ways to grow that are good for you that don't involve that kind of challenge. But the challenge is meetable. I think that's the important point. So if Richard Branson can be calm, then you and I can be calm in whatever our lives are dishing up to us. And we can be more creative in the moment because we're more concentrated.
Yeah.
And so even if we're busy, it will feel creative. It'll feel inspired. That conversation you have with somebody that we've all had this conversation, right? Where somebody is asking us something and we really, really don't want to have that conversation right now, right? So we're pushing it away. We don't want to think about it. We're just trying to get to the point where we can say, let me think about it and we'll talk about it tomorrow, right? So you're just holding it at bay. Well, imagine if you were a Richard Branson type where you just took it in and no resistance, open heart, open mind. And in that moment, a creative solution comes forward. You offer it, you move on. That can happen. Most of the time, the reason why we're not so creative is we are pushing things away. We don't, it's like, and I've done it a million times. This is why I know this so well. You know, we are doing that all day long.
We're creative in our resistance. We're creative in our resistance.
Yes, we just resist everything all day long. And because of that, we're stressed.
Yeah.
We're not embracing what's coming to us at all. And that doesn't, and the reason we're pushing it away is that we're not concentrated. We don't want to focus on it. We're thinking about 4 things that happened earlier. We've all been there, and it's very hard. And I don't like to be there. But I do know and can say to people with confidence that you don't have to push it away. You don't have to live a life that is constant stress. I mean, a lot of people think, oh, I just want to get away from it all. And the reason they want to get away from it all is that they're not open to it all. They're not, their heart isn't open to it, their mind isn't open, and they're not being creative with it. They're not being concentrated. It's an amazing transformation when you can be that way. I mean, sometimes we'll experience it, all of us will experience it when we get back from a vacation, right? And we're calm. Maybe we had great meditations, maybe we had great walks, whatever it was. We calmed down. We got out of the kind of stress mode. And we come back, and everybody we see, we go, oh, it's great to see you. How are you?
Right.
How have you been? We're happy to be in the moment and giving, and our shields haven't gone up. Our force fields haven't gone up yet to try to keep things and people at bay, because now we're feeling like we can handle it. Meditation will really help you get to that point where you can feel that way all the time. And when you do feel that way all the time, life is so much easier to live, and you're so much healthier. You're so much happier when you can get into that groove. Now, you might think, and I think people often do think, that why don't I just create a life where I don't have to deal with all that? And that can be good as long as that life is still energized by challenge and by things you want to do or need to do that are going to make you grow and expand the heart and expand the mind. Otherwise, it's very easy to get lazy if you have the wherewithal to not have to work to earn your living. If you can just get away from it all and be in a house and have all the money you need, it can be one of the dangers is you become, as they used to say, the idle rich. And the reason why it's a danger is you don't grow. You might have thought, now that I have all this free time and I don't have this stress, now finally I can meditate. But people often find their meditation just isn't as strong as they had hoped it would be. And it starts to feel unattractive because you're simply not as able to go deep as you had wanted to. So the challenges of life are good for us. They're energizing. They make us focus. They make us meditate. And I know myself for sure that if I didn't have the challenges in my life that I have, I'd be a lazy guy. I'd be a lazy guy. You know, I can just see it in even having a day off. I could take a day off and I think, okay, well, let me watch some movies. You know, I don't naturally stay at a high level of energy and do things now that I have a day to do them in. I tend to withdraw from doing anything, and that's a danger for me, certainly.
Yeah, to have those the challenges of life to give us that dynamic energy is what I hear you saying is very important.
Yeah.
We can't run from it like the man who wanted to get out of, was it World War II, and he moved to Guam or something like that. And
Well, it was after World War II, and he just was so disgusted by the wreckage left by World War II all over the world, seemingly, that he then decided he was going to find a place to live. Oh, no, this was pre-World War II. Sorry, you're right. It was post-World War I.
Got it.
Where he saw all the wreckage.
Yeah.
And he decided that he needed to find a place, a refuge in this world where war would never touch it. And he found that place and he moved to Guam. And in the middle of World War II, Guam turned out to be like Air Force Central for the U.S. Air Force, and all sorts of battles were launched from there, and ships attacked it, etc. So, if it really is, your karma, you're not going to get away from it anyway, even if you think you might. But I don't think you should want to get away from it all.
Yeah.
You should want to get away from stress. You should want to get away from the feeling of wanting to push things away. But that's about how you feel inside and not what you actually have to do.
How do we, going back to, how do we fight that battle to stay in that creative flow, Puru? Because one of the big things that we're all facing is sort of the mass hypnosis, that the world is in right now. It is a very unstable time, a very distracted time. So to truly be creative, we've got to stay in our center. But I wonder if you've had any experience or ways that help you to combat that kind of, the influence of opinion versus, tuning into the truth and what you need to say from your center.
That's an interesting question. I think it's related to concentrating, meditating and concentrating to, sort of stay in your authentic self so that you're not just telling other people what they want to hear or the least amount you have to tell them to get by them. That I think it's the same principle, that being present in yourself, being present in spirit, being present in meditation naturally leads to being more who you want to be, and being that person without concern, being that person with confidence when you're with other people. I think they all go together, and the starting point of all of them is to kind of get to that as often as you can in meditation. Get to that place where you feel completely present, completely centered in yourself. You may feel inspired, you may feel just peaceful, you may feel a release of tension, but get to that place where you're just present, centered in yourself. And then from there, all kinds of great things can happen.
That's beautiful. Really helpful. Yeah, a lot of art that you see or creative work sometimes are trying to sometimes be different or shock value. I remember, to give you an example, I went to a museum in New York City, and there was a big, huge 30-foot piece of the highway, literally with the rebar and everything, like ripped. And it was an exhibit within this museum. And I thought to myself, I paid for this. I could have just driven on the Jersey Turnpike, and gotten this for free. But again, I think what you're getting at is we don't have to be shocking and different. We can actually, it's more getting our egos out of the way and allowing spirit to express through us.
Yeah, a good friend of mine, and someone that your listeners may already know, is Dana Anderson, who is a artist, and she has a particular kind of art that she likes to do, but she's also just an artist, and she lives it. She lives in that creative state. And one of the things that she wrote about, which I was really really struck me as how insightful it was, is she was saying in our day and age, being original is considered to be of high value. And that artist who brought in a big hunk of the highway with the rebar sticking out of it was original, but did he contribute any kind of uplifting energy to mankind? Probably, I would say no. But what Dana was pointing out is that original doesn't mean that no one else has done it, but that it originates from within you, that it originates from the unique expression of spirit that is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can tune into, again, you become present with that origin in yourself, and then inspiration naturally flows from that out into creativity. So the core there, it's just that our society got it backwards. Yes, original is good. We don't want everybody to be a copycat, but being original doesn't mean having to be completely shocking or outrageous or weird or odd, or just to be able to be the first one who was ever that way. But originality is really letting something unique come into the universe, but through that touching base with spirit first, and then letting it flow through you.
So
And
now,
it can be,
Mhm.
it can be art, it can be your job, it can be your relationship. I think originality and creativity have the opportunity for expression everywhere in your life. I often laugh at myself because I'm the dishwasher in the house. And I have generated all these very particular, peculiar ways that I like to have the dishes soaking, have the silverware soaking, have all the cups lined up over here and the bowls lined up over there, so that when it's time to put them in the dishwasher, it goes really fast. And for me, it makes the whole experience more pleasant and more creative. And as far as I know, it might be unique, but it doesn't really matter. What matters to me is that it's the result of a creative flow. So if you can apply it to the dishes, I think you can apply it to anything that, you bring a certain energy, unique energy of your own to anything, and enjoy it. Do it the way you like to do it. Do it with the kind of energy you like to do it with. And it makes life enjoyable on all fronts, not just in selected areas that you typically found the most engaging or satisfying. You can bring that into everything you do and have everything in your life feel positive.
Everything can be permeated with that creative flow and that joy. You know,
Yeah.
we could talk more about this next time. I know we're just scratching the surface with these qualities and blessings of this new energy age, but you reminded me of one of our other friends and authors at Crystal Clarity, who's Joseph Barat Cornell, who talks that deep nature play was the book I was thinking of, that
Yeah.
that sense of play. And when we can be playful in whatever we do, then we're tuning into that, because God is, wow, he's a great hide and
Yeah.
seek
And I
artist.
think, what I would do is I would just take the word play and just turn it into uh, enjoyable creativity.
Mm.
And I read Barat's book very carefully. It was a privilege to be able to endorse the book, because what he was talking about again is find that time when you can be present, find that feeling of being present, and take it in to whatever you're doing. Turn it into to play, turn it into joy, enjoyableness. And anybody who's had the privilege of being on a nature games time with Bharat knows that he practically laughs all the time. He is a nature spirit incarnate, but he is always playful. And but he's very creative in everything he's done. And if you read his books, you'll see that this is a unique person with a deep love of nature, wanting to share it with others, and coming up with all these playful ways to do it. He tell a story on Bharat that when I was in Seattle with the Ananda Seattle Center, Bharat came up, and Krishnadas and I went with him and a number of other people on a backpacking trip. And one of the days he led us through his nature games. And one of his nature games is what's called the camera game,
Yeah.
where you guide somebody to look at something, but they have to keep their eyes closed. They can't open their eyes until you tell them. So you can get them down on the ground. You can tilt their head so they're looking down at a cactus or a flower or a rock or whatever. And then you pull their earlobe, and that's their signal to open their eyes and look. And then you pull your earlobe again and you close it. And so many people remark that those pictures that they took playing this game stayed with them for decades.
Wow.
They always remember that particular thing. So it's a lovely game. And in playing it, I decided that I would have the person I was leading, I took him over and stood him in front of Bharat's. I was looking right at Bharat's face, and I pulled his earlobe. And when I did it, Bharat made this goofy face. And then I pulled the earlobe again, and away went his face. But I'm almost certain that person remembered forever the goofy face of Bharat. So he was always full of play. He was always wanting to make it fun for people and memorable, and yet at the same time deep. And life can be like that. Life doesn't have to be all effort and no flow. Flow is wonderful.
Well, this has been a wonderful flow. I'm very grateful to have been part of it with you, Puru. Thank you so much for taking the time. And we'll have to schedule some follow-up conversations so we can get even deeper into the other blessings, because there are many with this new energy age.
Yes. Will be my pleasure. I look forward to it. And thanks for doing this.
And we'll put a link below for those who aren't familiar, again, with the book, the Yugas. It'll be in the link in the bottom of this video. Of course, you can get it on Crystal Clarity, Amazon, and all those good places. Thank you again, Puru.
Thank you. Carry on.
Looking
God
forward
bless.
to the time. Bye-bye.